everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Split, the young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. I'm Brian Cohen, the author of the Ted Saves the World series. That is Robert Scanlon, the author of the Dreamer Chronicles, and he's writing some kind of secret note. Secret. Political plotting, perhaps?
Yeah, that's what it is, but wouldn't you like to know?
I would. I would like to know. And there are going to be a lot of secrets revealed in this episode because we are talking about Golden Sun, the sequel to Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which we reviewed in episode 39. It was recommended by Yasmin, and we have never been the same because
that's right.
This was the book that we both rated as Red Rising, the first book in the series, was the book we reviewed as number one in our year recap. It was our favorite book of the year, both of us.
I know. And that's
so it had a lot to live up to.
Big feat to continue to follow in.
Yes. So why don't you read the summary and then we'll talk about it.
Okay. So Golden Sun, the sequel to Red Rising by Pierce Brown. In the training institute, Darrow vanquished his opponents using his street-smart tactics and by being the compassionate leader that no Gold would ever dream of becoming. But now he is in the academy, and this is no student battleground, it's training for war. With the balance of power delicately held and backstabbing among the ruling classes a daily occurrence, Darrow must also walk a thin line between building his growing band of supporters, playing the Gold politics of which he has zero experience, and never for one moment giving away the fact that he is not and has never been a Gold. For underneath all the genetic surgery and bioimplants, unbeknownst to almost all, Darrow is the Gold's most despised creature, a Red hell-bent on vengeance. Ooh, he's got a lot
I feel like
to
that's
do.
what I want to say after every description.
Yeah, I know. And that's why you are Dr. Descriptio.
Dr. Descriptio.
That is why you are the man, because you know how to do them. So
here's my thing.
Yeah.
Here's my thing about this.
Yeah.
I started reading it while I was working on a bunch of other stuff. And so that paints my picture because probably I was not able to take the subtlety that was present in the first half of this book quite as I wasn't able to deal with such a complex book at the beginning. And it is a very complex book.
It is.
It's a lot of political maneuvering, and it makes you forget that the beginning, Red Rising also had large swaths that didn't have any action in it. But, my lizard brain wanted action from the beginning and there wasn't as much.
Yes.
So as a result, I was sort of discounting the first half of this book. And the second half is very action-packed and there's a lot that happens. And you almost feel like even portions are kind of skipped over because there's so much that happens over a relatively short period of time. And overall, I'm very happy with the book, and I thought that it was well written, and I enjoyed the experience. But if you are expecting this to be like the sequel to Transformers or something that just has all sorts of blow-up stuff right from the beginning, you're not going to get it.
No. I think that's really well put. It is a really dense book, and I went into it, and I read it in its entirety for the second time, and it's long as well. I forget how many words, 130,000, I think. So it's a big book for its genre. They're obviously way bigger, but we still think anything over 90,000 is probably longer than normal novel length. So it's really dense. It does start in action, but it quickly then moves into sort of intrigue and posturing and peacocking in all the different societies, cults and factions, and done extremely well. But I read this immediately for the second time after reading Firefight, and it was so jarring that when you said to me, I'm really struggling with this, and I did not remember struggling with it at all. because I read it immediately after Red Rising, and in my opinion, that's the way to read it, because you are there, you are enmeshed in the characters. It took me a little while to get back up to speed with who the characters were and how they behave, because it's a cast of thousands. And none of that am I complaining about, because it was merely the fact that I was having to read at a decent clip and had coming in after Firefight. So I would say to anyone listening, put some time aside for this, because when you do, you will savor it. So, you know, Firefight might be the Indian curry that you go back and repeat because it was so good, but this is your full 20-course, you know, degustation. So you definitely want to take some time, I think, because there will be times even when you might find yourself flipping back and checking what was that happened, because this is not one you want to leave for too long and then come back to, because otherwise, a little bit like War and Peace, you're just going to forget who was doing what behind the scenes. And that's masterful, really. So, you know, we get more of the backstory. I think what's clever in this one, even more of the kind of murderous Romanesque politics reveal their ugly hand, and we see the horrible side of human beings, and that even in the future, even in space, humans are manipulative, nasty, deceitful, cunning, selfish, and that whole dilemma of the arc of Darrow, where, you know, is that what he's got to become in order to beat these people? And I've often said this in my corporate world. My previous life as a consultant, we often used to say the people that make it to the top are not necessarily the people that you want at the top, yet they started out that way. And some of the reasons why is because the skills they learn along the way are not the skills they need when they get there. So, you know, they learn all the battling skills along the way to vanquish all their opponents, but then you want the leader of your organization to be a benevolent dictator. That's what everyone hopes for. So, yeah, it's really interesting. And there's a lot of violence. There's some sex. You know, it's not for the younger YA reader. And strictly speaking, I think Darrow is a couple of years older now. I think he's 20. So
it's 4 years since he was in the
4, is it? Okay, so maybe
4 years since he was in the mines. So
yeah. So
and
he was
then
16,
lots of time passed when he was getting the surgeries, and
I figured
it's kind of tough to tell actually how much time.
It does mention it. I think it says at some point it's 2 years on since he left the training institute. So because there's a little bit of recap of what has happened over the last 2 years, where he left Mustang and this really reminds me of. Have you ever read any of the James Clavell novels? You know, Noble House, Shogun.
No. I've heard of Shogun.
Yeah, really similar. Lots of intrigue and behind the scenes plotting, along with rising action moments that are as a result of that behind the scenes plotting. And it really reminded me of that. And the note I made to myself here is, you know, you forever wonder whether Darrow played his cards correctly, because he's smart. He reads what's going on really well, and then he enacts a plan for that particular setting or issue that's got to be resolved, and parts of it work and parts of it don't, and that's great. You know, you don't want a novel where you've got a what do they call it in America, a Mary Sue character. So,
no, for sure, it definitely doesn't all work out. He's not perfect. He makes a lot of mistakes along the way, judging people. And I like that he sometimes realizes that along the way as well.
Yes.
And we'll point that out.
Yes. Important, because he's not silly. So you wouldn't want him to make foolish mistakes and then not realize it, because it wouldn't be true to his character.
Yeah. No, it's true. Because, I mean, like you said, he's not born in these political times with this political. He's kind of picking it all up as he goes along, which. Frankly, he's been kind of lucky.
Yes.
It seems like to get as far as he's gotten through this book. And so it's, definitely a lot of, it makes me think of the Netflix series House of Cards. In season 3, House of Cards, you've got the Kevin Spacey president character doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff as opposed to big action. And that's a lot of this. But then, let's not forget, there's some awesome action.
Oh, yeah.
Huge battles that are 10 times bigger than anything that was in the initial battles in book 1, the Academy, etc. there's so much more, and it's crazy, and he, from Darrow's perspective, he sees how crazy it is. Just a real all-out war of ships and people on the ground and traps and everything. It's pretty wild, and the things he has to do to survive, and yeah, it's all pretty insane, and so it almost goes from understimulation to overstimulation in a way.
Yes.
But I think it's in a good way.
Especially as you say in the latter half of the book.
Yeah.
we go beyond Mars. I mean, we're in the moon, we're in Jupiter's moons. It's extraordinary, really, where the setting and the all the different factions start to come into play, and I can't imagine how he thought of all this. It's good when you read a book and you think, how do they think of all that? That's the mark of a great novel, I think. And we get a great new character. And I really wanted to ask you about Ragnar, because in the book, in the text, every time Ragnar speaks, it's bold. And so
That's
you get
awesome.
it's really clever. You get this sense of this hulking great obsidian, which is the race that he comes from. So how did they handle that in the audiobook?
In the audiobook, he has a very distinct, dark, deep voice. It's actually kind of similar to Pax. Pax also had a dark, deep voice in his parents, but this is almost dark and a little less emotional. It's good. It's just like, I live for my sisters, and it's good. I like it, and I think the audio is handled well in this book. It's kind of different from the audio in, say, Firefight. He has a lot of different voices,
right?
And there are some different voices in this, but it's not nearly as dramatically different. Like, when it comes down to it, you can tell what the girl characters sound like versus the guy characters, and but they're only a little bit different. So it's kind of fun to hear how the different audiobooks are handled.
Yes, well, I mean, audiobooks are not meant to be radio plays, are they? They're meant to be narrated. So you don't ever want it to interfere with the characters, I suppose. So then you're much more au fait with them than I am. So that's good to hear. And also Ragnar's speech patterns are very, very easily identifiable. So yeah, he's great. He's a bit archetypal, but he's great. And I like the fact that from my point of view, I think this is a character existing as a foreshadow. And I mean, we're probably about to go into writer's stuff anyway. But to me, it seemed like he was an icon representing everything that Darrow's trying to fight for, which is this sort of it's not really equality, but it's more a recognition of the special things that each different culture brings to the overall human race, as opposed to requiring the human race to have these built-in hierarchies. And let's face it, it was deliberately designed. In Red Rising, we find out that the people that got fed up with the fact that human beings were constantly squabbling said, you know what we need? We need order. So we're going to make them all colours, right? And we're going to put golds at the top, silvers next, then we're going to have the bronzes, and then, and all the way down to bottom of the line, the reds, and it'll work.
Yeah.
And it has.
Yeah.
But it's still not right. And so I like this idea, what is the utopia? We want benevolent dictators, but if they become like golds, do we really want those? Do we really want the Roman rulers with their excesses, spoiling our lands and taking advantage? No, we definitely don't want that. So I think he's posing that same question, but in kind of almost space opera land.
Yeah. Which is why it's so cool, and why
we wrote it at number one.
This series, and why we're gonna grab book 3 as soon as it comes out. Certainly.
That's right. I've written here, oh my God, must have Morningstar now.
Yep. Yep.
Gotta have.
Oh yeah.
I could have run straight into it after finishing this one. The ending. It's a hard to take ending, but it's so appropriate to the arc.
Star Wars
Yep.
versus Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, exactly.
This is definitely the Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly.
All the way through.
And we won't say any more, otherwise we'll ruin it. But you got to read
ruin it.
You got to read it.
He's I am your father, Darrow. No, that doesn't quite happen. But,
so what did you think from a writer's perspective then?
From a writer's perspective, I don't know how I would have personally handled such a large chunk of no action in the beginning versus the large, heavy, action-packed stuff at the end. I don't know if there would have been a way I could have handled it better, but it did really put me off for a while.
Yeah.
So I feel like there may have been a way. I don't know if it's to not tell the story linearly, which I think a lot of people do to keep some action going, or to start at a different point in the story, or to start earlier, because there's a lot of stuff skipped over, and then skip over different parts. I don't know. I think that he did almost lose me towards the beginning. Now, he got me back. But if I'm, say, someone who really liked book one and started reading book two and didn't have to finish book two for a review, of course,
yes,
I may not have. I may have stopped.
You may have abandoned it. Yeah. Yes, I can't imagine that too many people are going to come to book two not having read book one. I think,
of course.
But if they do, I do think you're right. They're probably going to get put off because he bites off quite a large chunk of this political intrigue, and if you don't like that in a novel, that's definitely going to put you off. And if you come from book one, of course, you've come from the heavy action and the big training battles and his victory in that, and you're kind of expecting more of the same. And there is more of the same. There's no question about it. Yeah, but it's much more heavily interwoven. Now, in a way, that's kind of metaphorical for what Darrow's experiencing. You know, he can no longer be the street smart guy and get away with that alone. He's now suddenly confronted with, holy moly, these guys are nasty. You know, they cross, they double cross, they triple cross. You can't tell whether someone's telling the truth or lying. And there was a bit of that in book one, but it's full of it in this one. And so you have to kind of be prepared to run with that. And so I agree, in the wrong framework, it could be tricky. So maybe bringing seeding a bit of action earlier on would have helped. And for me, it's still a glorious book. I loved it. And
the descriptions are out of control good.
Yes.
The writing is so strong. And that's definitely, it makes me feel like it's another pointer that shows that you don't need strong writing all of the time. Like, Pierce Brown's one of the best writers I've ever seen. One of the best authors I've ever seen. Yes. The way he writes, the way he describes scenes, it's incredible. But he still almost lost me. So I think that goes to show that if you don't have the mystery, if you don't have the pacing quite right, you could be the best author in the world and you can still lose someone. So I think that so many authors worry, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be J.K. Rowling. I'm never going to be Brandon Sanderson. I'm never going to be these people. You don't have to be.
No.
You don't. There's plenty of successful bad books that we've reviewed that we don't like, but they certainly have action and pacing. So you just need to keep in mind, you don't have to write the best book in the world. You just have to write a book. And then you have to listen to all the episodes of The Split and figure out how to do it right.
Yeah, and I suppose to take on from that, if someone is wanting to know, well, then And so what do I do if I don't aspire to be a Pierce Brown or a J.K. Rowling because I can't see myself being that great? Well, maybe not now. Everyone, we can only compare ourselves to how these people were when they first started writing, for example, if you're a new author. But ultimately, and it kind of is, as somebody often says, pedestrian advice, but you've got to write the story you most want to tell and you'd most love to read. And I think if you were to read between the lines of what Pierce Brown has written here, I'm certain this is the story he really wanted to write. I mean, it shines through. It really does. There are so many twists and turns, and most of which I couldn't predict. And I'm usually pretty good at these things, having read so many books. But I never really perceived them as Deus Ex Machina. I didn't think, oh, that came out a bolt from the blue. No, when they happened, it made sense. You go, oh, yeah, of course he shouldn't have trusted such and such because they had this relationship with X, Y, Z. And so it's so clever. And it really did remind me of this. I've put some notes, to myself as it's like the I, Claudius of space. And it's a little bit like Asimov's Foundation, although I feel bad about, it's such a much loved, put on a pedestal, that series, the Asimov's Foundation series. But I reckon if you like a Foundation series, you should like this. It's more action-oriented, perhaps, and less mathematically oriented, but it's still got that same big, expansive view of humanity. And let's not forget, he's written this all from first-person, present-tense point of view, and it doesn't switch. It's all from Darrow's point of view. And that's really clever. We've never mentioned that once. Well, we did, I know, when we reviewed Red Rising, but often with YA books, we often say, "Oh, yeah, it's another one that's
it's in first person present,"
and then we switch to the girl's point of view. But you just don't notice it because it's so well done. So, we're obviously fanboys. There's no question.
Yeah, for sure. I know you mentioned this here in your notes, but I am excited to see what they do with the films because, especially for number 2, I mean. Look, Hunger Games splitting. I saw the fourth movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. It
was fine.
I haven't seen it. It
wasn't that great.
No.
I thought it was going to be action packed, and it was only action packed. But how they would do Golden Son in one movie. Whew. I don't know.
Without chopping out a lot of the
without
subplots.
Chopping out a ton. Yeah. So that would be interesting to see because there's just a lot in here. The audiobook was 19 hours, which is one of the longest ones we've done.
Sorry.
And it's okay. But none of the Hunger Games are that long, and they split the third Hunger Games into 2 books.
Yep.
And Divergent, there's not even enough plot in 3 books for 1 movie. So, burn. Burn. No, I haven't read books 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So
but and also, The Hobbit. It's a tiny.
Well, that was a studio. That was the studio saying we want another $11 billion movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very interested to see and who plays who, of course, and all of that.
Yeah, well, you probably looked at my notes.
Stole your notes.
Yeah, we don't want Tom Cruise. We don't want George Clooney. We don't. As much as she's good to look at on screen, we don't even need Scarlett Johansson. We need subtle and frightening in here. We need Javier Bardem and Jake Gyllenhaal, Kevin Spacey, Gary Oldman, Julianne Moore, Noomi Rapace. This. I couldn't find any. I was trying to think of young female actors who, outside of Jennifer Lawrence, who I think is fabulous, but there's the overexposure thing.
Well, Rooney Mara was. Yeah,
Rooney Mara would be good.
Dragon Tattoo. I think you can look toward maybe Game of Thrones, like some of the younger actors there. You can look to like in a couple of years, maybe they would, because they've already done some bloodshedding. I think there's a lot of potential. Like there's obviously always a lot of young actors who can do some great stuff, and it'll be really interesting to see who the next crop is. Because I still haven't seen the Maze Runner movie, but I heard the performances were fine in there, and so
Yeah, they were good.
Maybe the guy from there. But the interesting thing about the movie version is I wonder how they're going to do. Okay, you've got these big hulking golds that are supposed to be so much bigger and crazier than all the other colors, and then like, do they do kind of a Captain America? Steve Rogers was puny, and then he gets the injection and looks huge and looks like Chris Evans actually looks.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be interesting to decide to see how far they take that, because a gold should basically be 3 times as big as a red.
Seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah.
So I don't know, because it seems like they would have to do almost what Lord of the Rings did with the Hobbits to get that to work. So it's going to be, does it say when it's supposed to be released?
No.
Or is it still in?
I think it's only
development.
Optioned, and they've got a direct. I can't even remember. I'll look it up, see if I can find that out before we review our next book. Great. It's definitely a classic 3-act play though. So I think book 3 is he's got a lot at stake in book 3 to satisfy readers now, and I wouldn't want to be in his place, but clearly this is a passion play for him. So I'm confident he'll put it off, and it'd be interesting. Although having said that, there are a lot of fans of the Hunger Games first book 1 of the Hunger Games, who really disliked Mockingjay. When we reviewed Mockingjay, we spoke about that big backlash.
Yep.
Big
backlash.
So
the reviews for this were still strong.
Yeah.
Book 2.
Book 2 even better, I think, than from book 1. So clearly the fans are along for the ride, and we want the ending of all endings. We want the Star Wars ending.
Gosh, it's going to be so hard.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be so hard to satisfy. I mean, I'm like thinking about future books in my series and thinking about, I get reviews. I get reviews for book 3, book 4 that are like, he lost me. Like,
I hate that.
What are you going to do? I took a chance.
Yeah, you didn't lose me, Brian.
Thanks, Robert. What a guy. Takeaways. I'm happy to start.
Let's go for it.
So I think that it's really important to remember that you don't need necessarily the best writing in the world, because what's more important is keeping people's interest.
Yes.
So don't assume you need 20 years of schooling or something to be the best writer in the world. Just start writing, keep writing, and learn what it is that readers want.
Nicely said.
Thanks.
A slightly different line. I really like the great lines that you find, and I'm a fan of dialogue, as you know. Great dialogue, excellent interplay though. The dialogue, not just for dialogue's sake, but he's got a cast of thousands, yet you really get a sense that these are separate characters. And there's a real danger in Darrow for this one. I mean, in the training institute, maybe he'd make it through alive, maybe he wouldn't. He was kind of resigned that this was something that he'd been set up for. But now that he's won that, and he's got a taste of the fact that this could be a future, that he's the chosen one. He's the one who's got to lead it. But now he's got people he loves dearly, and yet they're also his enemy. So does he reveal himself to them? And if he does that make him now someone they revile? And in addition to that, he's forced to collaborate with the very people he hates, including the killer of his wife. The way that the stakes have been continuing to rise is delightful. I really, really enjoyed it. And look, let's face it, if you couldn't make this a movie, then it would make a great soap opera.
Mm-hmm. It would. I could see it being a miniseries.
I could see it being a Game of Thrones. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And maybe it's more suited to that, as you say, for the production issues. So.
Mm-hmm. Third takeaway, when your hero makes mistakes along the way, you can get some nice drama out of that. So don't make your heroes perfect. just make them human and allow that to influence the consequences.
That's right. You definitely want one of those, holy moly, oh no. You know, when you're really with them and you think, yeah, this is going to work. And then, oh my God, of course it's gone. And it really just, it goes to pot badly. It really does in many places. So he has to put himself back up again. So you're dead right there. Yeah. Make the hero fallible.
And this is a real ending. This is almost like a fourth takeaway. I don't know how Darrow's going to get out of this pickle.
Exactly.
It's quite a pickle
I know.
At the end.
Oh, man.
It's quite a cliffhanger.
That's right, yeah.
It, it resolves the book, et cetera, et cetera. You're kind of in the denouement, and then crap.
Yeah, it's a heart-stopping last line. I'm not going to rob anyone of that because I loved it. Beautiful.
Yeah, it was really good.
Shall we prompt?
Prompt away.
I'll take it away then. Your heroine has just won an exhausting battle only to discover she must penetrate the very heart of her enemy's inner circle. What core value must she compromise to do this? And how will that crush those that she loves?
Crush them. Just crush them.
It's going to be a story and a half. And when you write that story and a half, even if it's still just the first half, even the first 3 paragraphs, write it in the comments section at thesplitbookreviews.com, or you can send us an email, podcast@thesplitbookreviews.com, or where else should they be doing things, Brian?
You can go tweet us at The Split Book.
Oh, yeah.
You can go write an iTunes review on itunes.review. No, it's not. Just go to iTunes. Everyone has iTunes.
Go to iTunes. Everyone has iTunes. Search for The Split and leave a 10-star review that says we're basically awesome and that you couldn't possibly stop listening to us.
Forever and ever. So we don't have a book plan for next week.
Oh, yes, we do. You got to look at your list. It's called Vicious.
I didn't look at it yet.
Vicious by V.E. Schwab. And I will disclose that I've already read it. And
what a guy. What a guy. Ahead of the curve.
I think you're going to like it.
All right. I like that. I like that confidence. So come on back next week for Vicious. I'm Brian Cohen. That's Robert Scanlon. Thank you for listening, as always.
Indeed. And just watch out for the politics. They can stab you in the back.
Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to the Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robert?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.